So, as mentioned in the reminder for today's session, we're going to review a bit about custom events, kind of how we talked about last session, but this time I'm going to show you how you can do so in Google Analytics. We can go over another example in Google Tag Manager if anyone is interested in that, because I do have an example where the last time it kind of was a bit of a dud, but we can go through that. But you can essentially do the same thing that you would do in Google Tag Manager in your Google Analytics interface. So let's actually just jump in, I guess. Maybe before I get started, a little bit more about the differences. I did mention in the reminder email that like Google Tag Manager is usually for those that are, really comfortable with HTML, maybe have a dev side or some experience in that. And it allows for more flexibility. I don't believe that there's a limit to the number of events you can set up through Google Tag Manager. When it comes to setting them up through Google Analytics, there are some limitations. I believe for events, you have up to 50 to be able to create. And then with both options, you are required to set up custom dimensions, and we'll go through that in the examples. But that's just so that, if you set something up in Google Tag Manager or a new event that is collecting maybe a different piece of data that Google Analytics wasn't already capturing, that's where we have to define that custom dimension, and it's fairly easy. But those are the main differences between the processes. But hopefully we'll be able to make them both, really easy. So starting off with the Google Analytics option. I'm gonna jump into my interface. Sorry, I was playing around here with some reports. Come on. I'm gonna just get back to home here. There's a lot to load. It's taken a while. Man, let's just try and restart that because it's taken quite a bit. I don't want to exit these pages. Come on now, I don't want technical difficulties. Probably have quite a few tabs open, so maybe I'll close some of these up. Sorry, folks. I'm just going to try and reopen it, see if that gives me a better result. There we go. Okay. So we want to go over to admin. This is to whether to create the events or for custom definitions, but we're going to start first with the events. You'll see that there should already be existing events. These are the automatically collected events from Google Analytics. Let's see. I want to throw this in the mix. I will certainly have a collection of these links that I'll be sending to you, but this is a documentation that's really helpful when it comes to telling you about custom events, but also the automated events and the buckets of events that can be collected. So we are going to either create a new event or modify an event. The difference really is what's the end goal of our event. If we are just trying to, let's say, clean up, I don't have it here, but in other Google Analytics accounts, I've noticed that an event name, there has been a capitalized click and then a lowercase click. In that case, I have gone in and modified the event so that in this case, it still is allowing you to create, but because it's a modification of an existing event, the system will know that you need to have it match a specific event that's already taking place. So just real quick to show the modification, the modification name is just for myself, what we would see in the interface of the analytics, but it won't be part of the reporting. So we could just say click adjustment or something that just is descriptive. What we want it to match is the event name. We don't want it to equal exactly what we type in as the value. We want it to ignore the case. And so this is because I mentioned, some events include the capitalized click, and then some include the event that is just lowercase click. And instead of tracking those as two separate events, modifying it in this way can help you combine them. So whether you capitalize or not the word click in value, because we put ignore case, then it won't make a difference there. And so that we can go ahead and create. Let's see. Oh, just kidding. Sorry. The last step is then after we've captured all of those click events, whether they're capitalized or not, then what do we want the new value to be? We could have it remain as the lowercase click. We could name it capital click, or we could name it something else entirely. But this new value would be what the event would then be represented as. And then you would create, and then you would see it drop into your list of modified events. I'll go ahead and save it just for the demonstration's sake. And you'll see a summary of what you just created. And so going back, it probably won't pop up just yet. Let's go now to create an event. It's going to be very similar, what we just saw as far as the fields that were available. But for this time, let's see, I actually have, do I have my MyLO page open? Not anymore. I have one of my forms set up so that my confirmation page is going not to the default confirmation page, but it's going to a new page that I created. And that new page I titled "Thank you for your submission," or I titled it just "Thank you." The reason for that, and I'm just going to fill out the form so we can see what I'm talking about. I probably should have shortened this form. All right, just so that we can get to the confirmation page once I submit. Okay, so now since that is like the process or the steps that somebody would take if they were submitting that form, I can use bits of this process to create my event. So what I want to do is essentially find out whenever somebody visits that page, because it should be only visited when folks are going through that path. We could even go further to make sure that that page isn't findable on Google by like preventing the bots from following it. And that's part of the meta tags on that page, but that's going a little further than we will today. But just for today's sake, we are assuming that anybody who comes to view this thank you page means that they have come through the contact us form and they submitted it. So with that said, I'm coming back over to analytics. Again, the custom event name is just for us, something, oh, sorry, no, this is a little backwards now. So the custom event name, when we are creating here at the top is what the event will be called. So this will be found on your report. So since I am looking at the thank you page view, maybe we can call it that. You could even call it, contact form submission, whatever makes, most sense for you. Thank you page. Let's just see. Thank you page view. I'm going to keep it simple. And so in order to make sure that we are tracking the correct events, we want to make sure that we have the matching conditions set up properly. So let's see. The first thing we want to do is that the event name will equal, is it going to pop up for us? No. So the first part we want is that the event name will equal page view. And that's just, getting that off the plate where, some folks could have that their session started and it doesn't include a page view. Those folks would not be included in this count of the event. So once the bucket of those folks includes those who viewed the page, then we want the, let's see, is it going to be page? It is going to be page location. And this can be any portion of your URL. So if you use equals, you'll see that it tells you that you must start with the protocol, the HTTPS portion, or you can just use contains. And for me, I feel like it's usually the safer bet to ignore case. For the most part, our URLs are found in lowercase, but if for any reason folks reach it with an uppercase, we want to make sure those are counted as well. So the page location for my value, I'm just going to come on over to my actual thank you page. And maybe, I mean, I'm pretty sure just by putting thank you, I should be safe. But if you happen to have another thank you page, you can just make sure that you have either some differentiations in the path or, make the title a bit different. But that's what we're going to include as our value. And then for the parameter configuration, copying parameters from the source event would be like the event, or I'm sorry, the page view event. If there's any parameters to be copied, those would be coming from that source event. And then to modify parameters, we can skip this unless you are hoping to change whatever actual parameters are already collected, like page location and event name, what you may want those to appear as. But usually we can just skip that and go ahead to create. And so now we have event name and page location as the two parameters, kind of the dimensions that are related to this event. The final step would be making sure that these dimensions are already available. If they're not, then we make them custom. So I am just going to jump over to reports, trying to think of what's going to be the easiest way to look up page location. Because for the most part, we know that event name is going to be available since we know that there are event reports. Did I save that? Yes, okay. So let's check a report and see if I can find the dimension for, what was that, page location. and hopefully it'll be easy to find. Let's see, let me just try editing a report. I'm really just trying to reach any place where I can, add or remove dimensions. This might not be the place. Sorry, I should have had a spot ready in mind. Did not think this was going to be this difficult. Let's just try the events report. Okay, let's see what this gives us. All right, dimensions, page, location. Okay, so it is there. Awesome. That saves us from having to make a custom dimension. But let's go back to the events. And so when you create new events, it's usually going to be 24 to 48 hours before you start to see that on your list. Like the newest one, I'm not seeing it here just yet. I think not only does it take 24 to 48 hours, but also once it starts to actually collect data. So it may take longer than the 24 to 48 hours. But now let's go ahead and create another event here. And I probably should have kept that other spot open. That's okay. This time I want to create one for a form submission because right now it looks like we have form event set up, but I want to set up the event for form submit. And so since that's not already automatically collecting, I'm going to set that up for us here. So same thing when we are going to set up the custom event name, we start off with what we want it to show up as on the report. Let's see. So the documentation I dropped into the chat gives us some good ideas on what are recommended events. And so I would suggest before creating custom events, take a look at that list of recommended events because that will sometimes help you knowing, maybe what event name to go with. Because Google Analytics has come up with quite a lot already, but they may not automatically be tracking within your account. So the name may be there and the data, is just not collecting for you, but form submit. Sorry, I was drawing a blank. So form submit, and that's actually one of the recommended events from Google Analytics. You'll notice that, I'm just going to take it back a bit. As we start to type, the event names below appear. And I would think that it's safe to assume if, it's no longer appearing, that means it's safe to add this as a custom event. So now it's pretty straightforward. The event name is going to be the same thing, form submit. And we can do the same thing as we have done before, just making sure that it ignores the case. And then we'll copy the parameters from the source event and create. Okay, so that was a generic one. And actually, I'm just going to use this same one to use this as a way to track a specific event. So if you were, having form submit as a separate event, and then you wanted to have a separate, form submit specifically for this contact page, you can have that as well. But I'm just going to reuse this one But it's essentially the same steps we were just taking. So we saw how you can set up kind of a way to track a form submission by when a person views the confirmation page that you have set up. The other way is through the actual event tracking of form submit. Once Google tracks that a form was submitted, we can say not only should our event match that condition, but it should also match either the form ID, or we can just put a portion of the URL. It just depends on which parameter we're going to work with. So coming on back, since I want this not only to be our form submit, this is going to be specifically, let's put that in the front. This is my contact form. And so the same as we did for the form submit event, we do still want the top matching condition to be that the event name should equal form submit. But then we need to add a secondary condition. And this is going to be, we can go about it a couple of ways. Just as we did before, we did page location. We could do that and just use a portion of the URL as I stated before. That's one way to do it, and actually might be the easier way. The other option is, I'm just going to come back up here since this list is in alphabetical order. Another piece of, I guess, HTML that each MyLO web form carries is a form ID. But you'll notice that that parameter is not yet available here. So you can type it in yourself, and then the value, you would just have to come back here. And typically, you can find your node number by just copying this link address. Let's see, sorry. I'm just going to paste it. That's the node number, and that is usually part of our form IDs. So that's one easy way to, find that piece of data to plug in. The foolproof way to find your full and complete form ID is to inspect your page. So that does take a little bit more of digging. So I just right-clicked and then selected inspect. It brings over the dev menu over to the right, or sometimes it's on the bottom, but it brings up that dev menu. And I'm just going to scroll down a bit just so that I can actually see the form. And what I'm going to do is click on this. It is allowing me to select an element in the page so that I can inspect it, essentially, so it'll show me exactly the HTML line it's found on. So I'm going to click on that, and you'll notice it highlights as I go. And I'm just going to make sure I'm clicking on the form itself. And now here comes like the digging that you have to do through the HTML a bit. What we also can do, I wonder if I could just search for it. Oh, I do see it down there. But let's see, form underscore ID, and I'm just hitting enter. But I did scroll down some more. I don't know if you can see the line there.
It's very, we can't see that at all. At least maybe somebody has a big monitor. I
It's a
have to
little,
put my nose to
It's
the
really
screen.
small.
it's a little hard, yeah. But just to show you the steps, if you are going this route, you don't have to see exactly, everything that's on my screen, but so I'm hoping that me dictating the steps will help too. But if you open the inspect, you can actually go down to your search bar. In Google Chrome, the search bar is found at the bottom of the dev tools. You may have to like bring it up or down just to expand that portion. But I searched for form underscore ID. And in the results, I did have to scroll a bit, but you'll see that um, results do come up with that particular form underscore ID, and then it follows with value. And what's in the value, and I'll go ahead and copy this. Where is it? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and copy this line just so that we can see it a bit bigger. Let's try that. Oh, it did not copy the whole thing for me. Come on. Okay, there we go. Okay, so when I searched for form ID, and then I clicked on the result, this was the line that it brought me to. And so I just copied that line entirely. So this looks pretty similar to what we are building in the Google Analytics custom event. Um, the parameter is the form ID, and then it's asking us for the value. So this is the exact value. You can put this in its entirety, or as we had said before, the other option, if you didn't want to jump into the HTML of your page, you can always just find where your node ID displays. And it's usually on the new draft or edit draft button. You can just copy that link address. Once you paste it, you'll know that the number in the middle of that is your node ID. And it's the same as what's found in your form ID.
Maurice, can you go back and click that again? I was writing and missed that.
Oh, yeah. I'm on the new draft button and I just copied link address.
Draft. Okay.
Yeah, I think for the most part, any of these buttons, you'll notice it's a little hard to see in my bottom left corner. So I'll paste it over here. But any of those tabs, our moderate tab, the web form tab, the results tab, they all will feature your node ID. So you usually can't go wrong with any of those there.
And can you just put that number into the
Yeah,
right there? So without the verbiage. Oh, okay.
yes, you can just have that. Just make sure that you change it from equals to contains. Since we're just talking about numbers, we're safe to just go with contains. You're safe to go with contains, ignore case, either way. But yeah, we can go with just the node number, and we'll go ahead and save. So this time, instead of page location, I did form ID. But like I said, I could have easily included, instead of form ID, I could have included page location. And then for the contains, I could have just included this portion, some portion of the URL of the page. But since I went with form ID, we saw that that is a parameter that I actually just created myself. It wasn't already readily available in Google Analytics. So because of that, I need to come over to my custom definitions. Oh, I have it set up already. I just set it up today. Okay, so usually if you have this set up where you've just created that event and you're using form ID, you probably will have an empty custom definitions list here. So you would go to create custom dimension, and I'm actually just going to edit my form ID one that I just created. It should look pretty much exactly the same as that. So I'm going to edit. All right, so the dimension name is for ourselves. Again, it will appear in the reports, but it is kind of when you search through, event name or page URL or, landing page, all those different types of dimensions, this will be in the mix there. So give it a name that will help you identify it. When it comes to the scope, it's just asking you to what is it related? Is it related to a user, an event, or an item, I think is the other. But since this is related to an action being taken, it's related to an event. And then description is for ourselves, and it's optional. But then the event parameter, this is where we have to make sure it is correct, because this is what it is going to be searched for in the HTML by Google. So that parameter should match whatever parameter is on your website. And then you would just save. So creating those custom dimensions are pretty easy, and they're only necessary if you are using them in your events. And this is to allow for these dimensions to be used in your reports and like the exploration tab. Any questions so far? I see your hand, Susan. You're muted there.
Maybe I'm unmuted now.
Yes.
I've missed some sessions, so I apologize if you've already talked about this. But okay, so I know that 119 people submitted the form. Now what do I do? I mean, how are we going to use the information that the analytics is giving us?
Yeah, we did talk about that a bit in the last session. When it comes to that kind of report, I would suggest the path. Is it path exploration? Because now that we have custom events too, it really will help us find out, you know, after folks are, or let's say, I guess, what were they doing before they ended up at the form submit? We could, you know, play it either way. So, or actually, am I thinking of funnel exploration? Well, this path exploration would be, I guess, more of a free flow. It starts out with an event. Well, I guess you can change it, event name or page title. You choose the starting points and then you can customize from there. This type of report doesn't allow you to dictate the steps to be taken, but it allows you to see the natural path that folks are taking. But now that I'm thinking of it, maybe your question, Susan, might be better geared towards a funnel exploration. This lets you say what you want the steps to be, and then you get to see, well, who made it through the path and you know, made it to our finish
Okay.
line.
Okay, so they're not able to find our form to submit it, and we can look at that.
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Well, the funnel explore, it sounds like I need to go back to the prior date, which would be 2 weeks ago, and look for the recording of that one.
Yeah, we do have it available. If you just
Yeah.
go to our training page, it should be there. Let me see if I could just pull it up for you. Is it MyLO videos? Yes. I'll drop this in the chat.
What date was it? Was that 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago?
That one was 3 weeks ago. This month has been a bit different.
Okay.
All right, Jan.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm thinking if the form was, say, membership, you could monetize it and get some information that way. Or if it's sales with lunch with league, we could monetize that.
Yeah.
Is that what you can do with this?
Yeah, you certainly can. Let me pop back over and let's see. I think the custom events article that I dropped to you, it does talk a bit about it. So one of the examples that they provide, let me just make sure that's the correct one I did provide. Yeah. So yeah, it's from datadrivenyou.com. They talk about how you can actually, oh, so let me open this back up. So in the modify parameters section, just want to open an event. down here. So in the modify parameters section, in that article that I provided, this is where they have added a value to this particular event. So that is, I think, touching on what you're saying, Jan, where if, you know, a particular form submission, or let's say, I do want to give an example of how to track a PayPal button being clicked. Maybe you can set those to have a particular value. So that would be the way to do that, through the modifications. One thing though to note, and let's just jump into the PayPal button example. I just wanted to note that with the PayPal submittal button event that we're going to be setting up now, there isn't a way to, I think you know what I'm going to say, Jan. So if somebody clicks on the button and halfway through the process they say never mind, they're still going to be collected in this custom event that we would be creating. So that's one thing to be mindful of, because then it still may be a helpful number, because then you can compare it against the funds that you have received. And it may even be even more helpful if you have multiple payment buttons, like if you have one per membership level, then you have even more tracking capability. But let's go ahead, and I do kind of want to set it up in Google Tag Manager. Let's just do that. And essentially it would be the same as we did here in our custom events, but let's pop on over to Google Tag Manager just for this one bit. Take me there.
So when you use Google Tag Manager, you have to choose one or the other, or can you do both?
You can do both. Yeah, it is just allowing you to send, you know, more customized information from there to your analytics account. So I have a container already set up, and I am going to, well, first, I think my actual first step I took in MyLO. So actually, let me open that back up. Because most PayPal buttons, they will have a form target, a form action, but they won't have a form ID. And so what I did in my case was I added my own form ID, and it won't affect the functionality of your button, since that's a parameter that's typically associated with the form. Okay. Well, let's just go to the back end. I was going to show you through the inspect, but since I have it in my form settings, let's just take a look. So let's make this a little easier to see. So that's my text up there, and this all down here is my form, or my PayPal button. So you'll see form action, then form method, and we have target. And this is what I added. Let me zoom in a bit more. Okay, so I tacked on ID, and I'll just copy this entire top line. And I'm going to put it here so we can just see it a bit bigger. Oops, sorry, it went away. Sorry, I just want to focus on that. Oh, well, okay, so this is what it looked like originally. Whoops, why is it not taking it out? So this is probably what you would get too. I checked at least a couple of PayPal buttons. They all started this way, or at least didn't contain their own ID. But it's okay. If your PayPal button does happen to have its own form ID, then you just copy that value. But since this one did not have its own, I added in, you know, from the before the ending caret, I added a space. I added ID since, form is here at the top. We don't have to repeat that portion, but we put ID equal sign, and then whatever your value is, make sure it's contained within quotation marks. So it could be whatever. It could be just PayPal. If you wanted to just track all of your PayPal buttons together. Let's say you wanted to track your PayPal donate button versus your PayPal membership button. That's a different way too. And like we said, if you had a PayPal button for each level of membership, then you just name them accordingly in the ID portion. So this one, I think PayPal donate is what I had went with. So that's what I had added. And then same thing, same rule as before, just save it while it's set to HTML. And again, adding that ID won't affect the functionality of your PayPal button. It's just giving some extra information. So that was my first step. I added the ID to the PayPal button. And then let's just save that for good measure. And then coming back over to Google Tag Manager, and actually I will admit, I did create the tag and trigger already. So we'll see it in action, but we're just going to go through the motions and go through the steps as if they weren't there. The first thing I did in Google Tag Manager, once I added that ID, is I actually previewed it. So it goes, when we click preview, we're looking at the site in debug mode. And essentially that just means that you're testing your site for its tags and triggers. And the other thing is that this traffic that you're creating won't get sent to Google Analytics, since they know it's you testing the site. So we first want to test it because essentially I want to make sure that the form ID is presenting correctly. So I'm going to connect. And let's see if I can try and fit this all on one screen. Sorry if it's a little scrunched. Sorry, there we go. All right. So we're connected here. I have my cursor here on Google Tag Manager always in the summary. So it just tells us a summary of which tags have been fired as we go along. And then the tags not fired are just the ones I have created in my Google Tag Manager account already. So let's just go directly to the one I know is set up with the PayPal button. So that is under Contact Us. Sorry, it's the second one here, clone of web form for demo. All right, let me just fill out the form. All right, and then I submit. You'll see over here, form submissions was a tag I had created and it went through. Sorry, that was not what I was trying to do there. But now that I know the successful form submission happened, now let's try the PayPal button. So it took me through. Obviously, the tag I had set up did fire. But what I want to actually check, and sorry, I closed that other window because we're done there. I wanted us to go here. So the very final step I took, or the final action I took before I left the site, was I clicked the PayPal button, and that's categorized as a form submit event. So I go here under API call, and it tells me the event was form submit. That looks great. And the form ID is PayPal donate. The fact that we provided it ourselves, that probably was confirmation enough, but this is a great way to find out the pieces of data, like the variables you need. Let's say you didn't provide the form ID yourself and you wanted to find out what that bit of information was. Then you come and you preview your site in debug mode. And then once you take that action or event, then you would click on that line, look at the API call and find, whatever data you're looking for. So that confirms that we will set up the event with this form ID, or the trigger with this form ID. So now I can go ahead and close this window. This is the debug mode. It takes us back to our actual workspace within Google Tag Manager. And so I'm going to start with the trigger. So the trigger is going to be what trips the tag to present itself. So I do have it set up, as I said. The trigger is the PayPal payment, and the actual type is form submission, because again, the PayPal button, although it looks like a button, it is categorized as a form. Whether that is, the simple button that we saw on my page, oh, we don't see it anymore. But I had just a simple buy now button. But let's say you have the longer form that has the field and everything, and it has the button at the bottom, that's still, they're all considered a form. So the trigger type will be form submission. There is an option to check for validation, but I don't believe that that's available for the PayPal button, because the validation happens outside of our website. So that the check for validation could be available for form submissions that you're tracking within MyLO. But we'll skip that. When it comes to when the trigger should fire, we want it to only trigger on some forms, and those specific forms should contain this form ID. So once we say some forms, we have to choose from this drop-down list of variables. And if you don't see form ID in this list, just scroll to the bottom and you'll choose built-in variable. And that will typically happen if it's like your first time coming into Google Tag Manager, or you haven't already enabled that built-in variable. And then I think the default is typically equals. We just change that to contains, or equals. I guess in my case, I did put the entirety. It just depends on how you are setting this trigger up. So that is how we set up the trigger. As far as the connected tag, and remember, every tag has to have an accompanying trigger. So the tag then is set up in this way. So it is a GA4 event. Remember that your configuration tag should be set up so that you can connect your GA4 event tag to this one, or whatever you name that. Whoops. The event name, this is going to be what is showing up in your reports. So I would probably want to change this up a bit, since I would want it to match a bit better with the naming convention of events. But I'll leave it like that for now. And then on to event parameters. For tags, it's pretty straightforward because we don't know, or we don't want to specify a value, because we don't want to say that the tag is only related to specific form IDs. We say what the parameter name will be, and that's, again, what it should look like within our HTML, typically separated by underscores. And then the value, I filled that in by clicking this little Lego plus sign symbol. And it shows me our list of variables. And I just selected form ID. Same as before, if you look at these lists of variables and you don't find the correct one, you click on built-ins. Let's see. Yeah, it'll allow you to choose from the built-in ones. You have the option to create your own new variables, but the built-in list is pretty hefty that I think you'll do well in finding one that works. So yeah, that is how to set up that tag. The user properties we can skip because we don't want it to only be associated with certain users. I just want to make sure we're not missing anything. Yeah, the tag firing options, if you wanted to change that, I guess it really depends on the nature of the event itself. It makes sense that this one would go once per event, but I can't even think of an example that would be once per page. But yeah, let's go ahead and whoops, save that as is. Any questions on how that trigger or tag are set up? Okay. So, whoops. Let's save just in case. All right. So now we can go back. I'm trying to think. I don't actually have another page that has a PayPal button. So I'm going to try and quickly add one to another page. Let's see. I think it was. Thank you. And any questions while I'm just going to quickly drop this in here?
Well, that said tag assistant, not something at the bottom. What was that?
I'm not sure.
It looked foreboding, not connected or something like that.
That happens because I opened debug mode and you could just say
Oh.
finish. It won't affect anything. Oops, I forgot to take out the form ID. I wanted to make sure that that wasn't there so we can test a PayPal button that does have it and one that does not. Sorry. Yeah, this tag assistant, if that comes up, there's a finish link. You can just click on that and it goes away. There we go. Take away the ID. And now we have one PayPal button with an ID and one without. And again, I could provide a different ID for this one if I wanted to track separate buttons. So let's just go back to Google Tag Manager. Again, I am going to preview. So same as we did before, we're going to connect and it opens us up in a separate window. Let's see if we can do what we did before. Yes. All right. So when you are in debug mode, if this little window comes up, do not click finish because it'll close your previewing window here. So just use the little carrots and then I just throw it away because it's very annoying. All right. So let's first go to the PayPal button that does not have our ID. So I'm coming down to fill this out. All right. So we have the form submission tracked. I'm taken over to the thank you page. Whoops. Oh, and I have a separate event for that specific contact form. Now, when I click on buy now, that action you'll see was taken as a form submission, but it was not tracked as a PayPal form submission or that separate event that I have. So I'm going to close that up. Whoops. No, I want to reopen that. Sorry. All right. So that was that first one. Now let's try the actual one that has the ID. Sorry, so that's clone of web form for demo. So again, filling out the form. And we submit. Whoops, sorry. I should probably have kept it on summary there. So the form submission, again, was tracked. Now the moment of truth. I click on our Buy Now button, and an additional form submission was tracked, but we see a separate PayPal donation event was tracked. So that was to show the difference there, that it is successful with the form ID and you know, being able to differentiate your form submissions in that way. And then since we used Form ID here, same as before when we were using Google Analytics to create our custom events, we have to come over to custom definitions. And whatever parameters you used in Google Tag Manager, make sure you define them here if they aren't already a dimension in Google Analytics. And then remember, if you are trying to check that, I wonder if they have, oh, they don't list it. For me, the best way I found to be able to search for dimensions that might exist was either through a report or like through the Explore tab. That one is pretty easy too. Through the Explore tab, I just start a blank report, and then you can search through dimensions by clicking on the plus sign. So it shows you all of them. I have only one custom set up. But yeah, this would be the way to go about it, at least to be able to check if you need to create that custom dimension or not. Any questions about setting those up? I did want to talk about one last thing. It's not, I guess, technically related to events, but it is another part of your Google Analytics reports that could be really powerful. Campaign URLs are something that if you don't already use, I would recommend because they help to be able to track your digital marketing efforts. So if you're posting on social media and you're including a link back to your website, you can you know, build a campaign URL that has pieces of data like the campaign source, the medium that was used, you know, among other things. But just those pieces of data alone can be really helpful to let you know where folks are coming from. So I'll drop this in the chat, but again, I definitely want to compile all my links, all my resource links to send these to all y'all. So that is an easy way to build up your campaign URL. You could do it manually, and you'll see that in the generated URL, you can see what the syntax is. But this campaign URL builder does it for you, so it's pretty straightforward. Jan.
Yeah, for instance, we get a lot of traffic coming from our MailChimp emails, and so that would be the kind of thing we'd be calling a campaign.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would say anything that you do that is outside of your website, you could call a campaign. So if it's anything on social, if it's anything on email, I can't think of any other way, but like, yeah, any kind of communication where you are the one building it and getting folks to your property, to your website, then I think it's a perfect excuse to create a campaign URL. Once you start using these over in analytics, let's go over to reports. See if I can remember which one. I think it was under traffic acquisition. So acquisition and then traffic acquisition. Okay, so I'm gonna scroll down. The dimension that they're using is session default channel group. So that tells us like the bigger buckets that they're coming from, but I want to know the campaign. Actually, the source could be related to the campaign too. No. Oh, yes, it is. It's a little harder to ingest. Let's just go to the session campaign. But depending on, how you build up your campaign URLs, you will have a source and a medium associated with it. So that session source and session medium could have some of valuable data. But you'll notice that this one here is actually intelligible and looks like was provided. And that is something that we're looking at the lwvc.org site, and that is something that we have as our monthly email newsletter. So that is the campaign that we name it. Let's see, is it the source? This is where in the source I differentiate the version of the monthly highlights it was. So we can see that the July version got 40 users and 55 sessions. And there were 34 engaged sessions. So that's pretty nice. One thing I always forget, and I will just recommend whenever you come in to look at your reports, just up the rows per page, because it shows me only 10, and my first instinct is not to go to the next page. I'm just like, oh, I only have 10 results. Let's just make it show me all of them at once. There we go. I just wanted to show you the other one. Obviously, with all of these others, these are associated with like the referrals. So we, as from the referrals from cafepress.com, we got 2 people. The June 2023 is related to our e-newsletter, and we see that we got 2 users from that. And so this is the session source and session campaign are great ways to be able to not only see like referral traffic, like what's already being collected, but then you'll be able to beef up your data with campaign URL building.
Can you tell me just a little more about what URL building is? Is that adding words to the URL that help people find what you want?
It will add words to the URL, but it is to identify where that link click originated from. So if we were to just include a URL, and I'm going to copy this so we can play around with this one. Let's just play with a new one. So this one here, I'm going to separate what was added. So all this here, that is the campaign details that we tacked onto it. So if I have this link and let's say I put that in an email and that person who received it clicks on it, I will in Google Analytics see that there was a page view for this particular page, but I wouldn't be able to see where it came from essentially. So by adding this campaign, the campaign details, I can then associate that page view or that session or that user with this campaign, whether it's by the source, by the medium, or the actual campaign name itself.
Okay, then it's not doing anything. Say you want to have 17 people click on that particular event or campaign. This isn't going to help me figure out how to improve the number of clicks. It'll help me know who clicked.
It won't identify the users. It will let you know the number.
Right. But my reaction again is, yeah, but I need to know how to make the number bigger. And is gathering this information somewhere going to tell me how to make it, how to make more people find more things on my website?
Um,
Isn't this telling you where people are coming from?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it tells you which one is most effective. I mean, maybe MailChimp isn't as effective as your Facebook links. I mean,
Yeah.
that's got to be of some value to you.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So when you say where it's coming from,
Mm-hmm.
when Liz says from Facebook, okay,
Mm-hmm.
if you put it on 3 different social medias, this lets you determine which of those 3 is the most productive.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a
Ah,
great
all
example.
right,
So
all right.
let's say you create, let's say it's the exact same post for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, but the link that you include is separate per, this is your Facebook campaign, this is your Instagram campaign, or you change the source and the campaign name can stay the same, whatever variation. But yeah, that way, once you look at your report, then you can say, well, if the campaign name is the same for all of them, we had, 500 sessions. But then we break that down further by the source, then we can see, well, actually 250 came from Facebook, 100 came from Twitter, and
Yeah.
150 came from Instagram. Yeah, that's great.
Okay, all right. Then now it begins to be worth all this effort to figure out
There,
how to do it.
there you go. Yeah, it definitely takes some more work because usually when you're plugging in a link, you're just copying and pasting. This is definitely a few more steps beyond that. I have seen, let's see, was it on here? There was a recommendation on like how to track them. Was it on this one? I saw folks saying something about like a spreadsheet to be able to keep your track your campaigns. No, it wasn't here. Um, but that may be an option, like if especially if you're trying to work collaboratively with the rest of your league leaders, you can walk them through the steps on how to create a campaign URL. And let's see, let me actually just create one. So let's send people to our documentation page. Whoops. So that's the easy part. Drop in whatever URL you want them to reach. The campaign ID is optional and is typically associated with the ads campaign. But I will say that this campaign ID is a dimension in Google Analytics. So if you do provide something there, there will be a matching dimension where you can, pull up a report from. But I'm going to leave that blank myself. The campaign source is where were they referred from. So it could be, email, or I guess more specifically, not just the email, what type of email was it? Was it a newsletter? Was it an action alert? Whatever you're trying to make happen. For me, I don't know what I want to do. Let's just say newsletter. I'll copy what they have. And then the medium. This is what was actually used. So our examples here is CPC. I don't know exactly what that is. Banner, email, maybe maybe we have this in our sidebar content, whatever it, just name wherever this is coming from. So email, and then the campaign name. Okay, so it looks like although campaign name and campaign ID are technically not required, there's a line here that says campaign or campaign ID are required. So maybe, I don't know if campaign name is a dimension already provided in Google Analytics, but I sure know campaign ID is. So maybe that decides it, but either way, go with whichever you like there. Let's just say doc click. And then campaign term, campaign content, again, related to the ad. But we are not associating this with an ad, so you can usually just leave those blank. And as we're adding that, this box down here is updating. So we copy that. Let's see, I guess you get an option to shorten the link. I don't know. Okay, it's just a bit.ly. So that is up to you if you want to shorten it further, because campaign, that's the other thing too. Campaign URLs will be long because they have, you know, question mark UTM source and then whatever you provided, UTM medium, whatever you provided, UTM ID, and how many ever things you've provided up here. But we copy that, and then now that I've copied it, I can plug it in wherever I intended to use it. So remember, if you are planning to use this same link, as we said in the example of like on multiple different social media channels, just remember to change either the medium or the source, whatever portion you were trying to make different, and then plug away.
So,
Yes,
Maurice,
Yeah.
so the source would say equals Twitter or equals Facebook or.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
would you
If
have to
How
make,
about, go ahead, Liz.
let me
would you
just
okay, you
sorry,
go ahead.
before you go, Liz, if you wanted a foolproof way, Lynette, to change it up, just don't even manually change it, go through the form again, and you can, you know, be certain that your URL is built as it should. Liz.
Looking at the URL, it
Mhm.
looks like this is a development tool or some kind of, is this accessible as a regular tool? Maybe that just means it's for developers rather than being a beta or something. It's not in development. This exists as a final product, right?
Yes.
Okay, and how do I even get to that? How do I know where to get to that? Where am I?
I put the URL in the chat. But
Oh, okay,
you can always I think I'm going to leave that one open. Let's see. What do I always,
I
I just
see.
usually put campaign URL builder. For my results, it probably comes up higher than yours might, but it should be pretty high up there if you just search campaign URL builder if you don't happen to have the URL handy.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then Susan.
Yeah, if you wanted to do two different styles of email, let's say one in red font and one in black font, and compare the results, how would you distinguish from one email and another?
That is a good point. I, again, would probably play around with either the source or maybe no, not the campaign ID, because that's kind of more universal for both. Yeah, I would say the source itself, you would probably want to make some changes there, make them unique. Because again, the campaign term and content, since those are ad related, I'm not sure if they are readily available in Google Analytics. So adding anything there could just result in no change.
On the earlier example that you showed us, where was June and July? Where did those go?
That is on my source. No, let me double check. That is the source. So I have my medium set up as email. The campaign was monthly highlights, and then the source is the different like version. But I'm like, I wonder, this might give some insight on if there's like, well, obviously it has best practices, but I don't know if there should be like rules to what should be where. I'll drop that as well. Yeah, that might help to give you some context too, if anybody's still struggling with like examples on how to make this, make use of this.
I'm Maurice.
Mhm.
So if I'm going to track our Twitter versus Facebook versus Instagram or something, is that three separate campaigns, or is that one campaign called something like social media, but that has three different sources?
I would suggest having one campaign, and it it could be as wide as just social media so that you just have one campaign forever on social media, or it could be, you know, whatever post it's about, like that can be its campaign, like get out the vote or something. And then, yeah, within your source, that's where I would put the distinction of which channel it is.
And so so in the source box, do you put Twitter, comma, Facebook, comma, Instagram? It tracks all those three separately, or do you have to create?
You do have to create each one.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's where, you know, you could make it easy if you were fine with not filling out the form again, and you know they're going to be, you know, pretty much three clones of themselves, but one, you know, difference each. Let's say we have this. Whoops. So here for that source, I'm going to put Facebook. For this source, I'll put Twitter, and making sure that I'm not getting rid of the preceding equal sign, and then what follows is the ampersand. So make sure those two parts are untouched, because if one of those is missing, it could throw off your URL and make it not work.
Okay. And we use those codes in the campaign in the link.
Right. Instead of just your plain regular link, you would want to use this. And then if you didn't like the fact that it's so long, you have, you know, bit.ly in your back pocket to shorten it up.
Okay. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
But no one actually sees that link. Is that correct?
Let me show you an example of what it looks like. I have one on my demo homepage. Whoops. It is kind of a pointless button, but I just put it there for the sake of our example. So you'll see in the URL field, it shows up. But it doesn't affect my experience on the page. So the page still loads up the same. It's just I do get to see what the campaign details are in the URL. But yeah, it won't affect me.
So you can't have two campaigns on the same page, or can you?
The campaign URL is per URL. So it depends, you can do that. You can do whatever.
Right, but you've done it with this URL. So this one is preoccupied with what you've put in, and it can't be used until you're ready to modify it.
I think she could have another button.
Yeah, like if I had an
Okay, so it's just the button, not the whole page.
it's associated
okay.
with the URL, with the link.
With the button, yeah, or the whatever they're clicking on. Okay.
Yes.
So in my case where it's MailChimp, things are coming from MailChimp, I have to wait to see the URL that is being generated from MailChimp, and that's what I'm looking for.
Does MailChimp, how would I word it? You know how Facebook uses its own domain to like shorten or change whatever URL you provide? Does MailChimp do that in its own way?
I don't know, but I do know they do things in campaigns. I mean, I think they kind of organize the things you send out by campaign. So
Is there a built-in way to specify a campaign in MailChimp? Because I ask because we use our CRM is every action, and it includes our email or our targeted email section, and I am able to specify the campaign name, source, and medium there. Is that possible in MailChimp?
I'd have to look at,
Yes.
I don't do it regularly. It's somebody else that does the MailChimp, but I can go in and take a look at how, whether or not you can assign
A campaign.
yeah.
Because that would
Yeah.
be really
You-
nice. Oh, you can.
Yes.
I think I know what Jan's talking about is every single thing, every single piece of or an email that you send out to your group, that's all separate campaigns.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
and some are ongoing and some are one-time campaigns.
Okay.
Everything that the users that clicked on that campaign would all be tracked within that campaign.
Right.
Awesome. So then it sounds like it does. I will say for our every action emails, the fact that I can set up the campaign name, source, and medium, I just have to set it up once, and then all the links within that email have that data. So maybe MailChimp has something similar where you just set up the campaign and then you just kind of once and done. Otherwise, if you are trying to achieve the same effect, it would require taking each individual URL and building it with the campaign URL builder.
Yes, MailChimp gives you great analytics on open rate, then click through. And then what would be helpful is if MailChimp subscribers then go to your website. So it could be a source of acquisition. But yeah, MailChimp gives fantastic diagnostics within a campaign. And every time you send something out, you can set up a separate campaign identity. So.
Right.
Awesome. Yeah. So then it sounds like it is same thing that is being done here, but not having to be done manually. So yeah, I would definitely suggest exploring that campaign builder in MailChimp if you have it.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Today was a full session. Mary Jo.
Hi, everybody. So, as you know, I was creating events. And I don't understand that. I don't know how it has to do with It doesn't have anything to do with actually creating an event in MyLO. It has to do somehow with, yeah. So, if Jennifer cares, that's great. But when I wanted, so I won't ask you questions. I just want to share two things. But I do have a lot of questions. Hopefully we can do it next time.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to say that probably people know, I saw on the New Media League Facebook, you know what I'm going to say?
No,
about,
but go ahead.
Club Express.
Oh, yes.
Oh shoot. Somebody was asking about websites, and I did say that we were using it and we're very happy with it and that we had great customer service. Nobody else commented on it, but I thought that was good when it said that the National League is not going to use Club Express as its official membership thing,
right?
Whenever they make the decision. And then so I spent some time with McAfee people yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and they gave me, or I guess I bought QuickFox. And so I was on QuickFox when I wanted to go into our website, and of course it made me log in, and I don't remember what my login name is. So just for the heck of it, I wanted to see, well, how does it work? Because I never get the chance to do that, to see how it works for other people. And I couldn't believe how many security, name the bus, name the bicycle, all that stuff to make sure. Oh my God, at least 7. And I don't know if I don't know, maybe there was a little bus in a corner that I didn't see. But anyway, I'm just sharing that I thought it was just really crazy. But
I don't even know what you're talking about. QuickFox.
She's talking about the CAPTCHA when you're on mobile. It will once you click the box.
I was on my desktop.
Oh, I have not experienced it on my desktop.
I've been getting a lot of complaints too. It doesn't do it to me because I'm an administrator, but
right. But I was on another browser, so
but
as mentioned QuickFox, which is supposed to be very, very secure. And so yeah, my people are experiencing it if anybody's trying it. But
the CAPTCHA only presents itself to those who are logged out. So being an admin, I don't think will affect our experience. But go ahead, Liz.
Not normally, but I had never been in under QuickFox. Is why.
Well, I don't know what QuickFox is. Is it like a secure way to make your browser more secure?
Well, it's like Chrome or it's like Edge, but he said that.
Oh,
QuickFox
it's a browser.
Really good. It's a browser. Did I say the wrong thing? I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I've been using it and, you know, he said it would really help. Okay, so that's all I was going to share today, and then I'll have questions next time. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for bringing those up. I'll ask our team what options we have for the CAPTCHA, because we
I mean, I
definitely,
think they're kind of fun, but at some point, give me a break.
yeah, but we definitely want to make sure user experience is still good, but we don't want to lower, you know, the CAPTCHA and then pose a security risk. So I'll ask what our options are there. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. I like the one where it says, pick out the cookbooks.
I have never seen that one.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a CAPTCHA thing, but it's a security thing, you know. It's like a part when you're signing in, it'll say, okay, finish your signing in by doing this.
Right.
That's very easy.
Well, that's a funny one.
Oh, well, okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
If National has decided to go away from Club Express, will MyLO be kind of reaching out to other leagues, other Club Express leagues nationwide to kind of, I guess, sell your services and bring more people on into our little group here? I'm desperately trying to convince Oregon to do it, but
Yeah. Yeah, we've talked about it amongst staff once the note came out. And so we are trying to think about how we can go about that. It would be an awesome opportunity. The logistics though, I'm like, ooh, can't imagine how to gather such an email list. But yeah,
Well, we
it
can
is
start
definitely
with
on our minds.
ourselves. Yeah. Also, I guess there's supposed to be a webinar in September, so I guess we'll hear about that at some point.
Right.
So that'll be
Yeah,
interesting.
that's gonna be an interesting one for sure.
The appeal of Express was the way that it promised it would integrate membership activities with the website and with email. And that would be a huge hurdle to get over.
I would imagine that they're probably not going to move backwards, you know, with the functionality that has been attained so far with Club Express. I would assume that they're going to try and go for something comparable or better. But we'll see. You never know.
Well, it
Or
was
cheaper.
interesting to read that whoever wrote the post said that it was because of feedback from members like us that made them take another look at it.
Really?
That's what the post said. Do you belong to that, Susan? It's called
Yeah, I saw the message, but
okay.
you liked it, I thought.
Like what?
Club Express.
We don't have Club Express. No, I don't.
I thought you said you did. I thought you did.
No,
okay.
no.
Oh, of course not. Here you are on MyLO.
Well, we could. I mean, theoretically, we could be using it just for membership.
Yeah, technically,
yeah.
Yeah. So we'll definitely have more to chat about around that subject next month.
That's sure. Okay.
That'll be September 1st.
September 1st.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Does anybody know the date of that webinar?
Well, that's the next, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, the next, yes, that is, let me double check about office hours. Or actually, we might still be going on the original schedule. So I think the 8th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this month has been wonky.
Okay.
So yeah,
Thank you.
I will,
2 weeks.
I will, like I said, I'll post the links that I've been sharing with you guys in the chat. I'll post those and then I'll put a reminder that this next session is 3 weeks away instead of our usual 2.
Okay. That's because there's a holiday.
Yeah, and I took a little vacation time. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? So I had to get away. All right, but yes, September 8th. Exactly. We'll see each other in 3 weeks, but we'll talk in the group before then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thanks everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.